review because everyone's abandoned ship on WoW. Oh, have they? I don't know.
They did.
I do know. It's always my name. I'll have you know, I have always been Tom Lildo Dover. Welcome, one and all! Mr. Ghosty's here, as well as some fucking weirdo, man. Who's this weirdo?
I don't know, mate. I don't know.
Who's this weirdo?
I don't know.
Why is he in my
He
house?
just followed me in.
He looks teenage.
He's teenage.
Doth he have the pubes?
Oh my god.
Have you checked?
Well, do you?
Confirmed? Confirmed deny?
We'll find out later.
out
That's
later.
James. James is staying at my house tonight. For funsies.
No.
He is 18, so there will be oil.
No homo?
Max homo.
Full oil.
Exactly, mate.
Fish
Exactly.
oil?
And Twister.
For flavour. We use fish oil around here for flavour. Baby oil smells. Right? Fish oil, delicious. Bit of cod. Bit of cod for the men. Let's fix this mic because I've got a half head, which I don't particularly... That's camera. No, Mike. Makes no sense at all.
You dickhead, I was going to insult you about
Pubes
something else.
confirmed. Okay, chat does confirm you have
They
pubes.
do say that you have pubes.
Wait for it.
High five.
No. Even better.
Congrats on the pubes, James.
Teach you to sit in my house. Welcome, everybody. Right. So, where have I been for a week? Because I announced it badly. I have been streaming for a week. It's been amazing.
What was that?
I had a really good time. I had a really good time.
I had a good time, mate, as well.
I had a good time.
I was extremely busy in work.
Games. I haven't
watched
finished
most of it.
a game in about 6 months. My playtime in Grand Theft Auto is so low, my dad moved. Talking about like 2 hours of Grand Theft Auto, and I thought, this is ridiculous.
Oh my god, I've just got it. Oh my god.
It was ridiculous. It was so bad how often I got to play other games while working a job where I play video games. Tragic. So we took a week away from WoW, and we streamed. We played some Walking Dead Season 2, where I literally lost viewers for being far too evil. You gotta grow some gonads in this world. You're gonna survive the zombie apocalypse. Poison. I was poisoned.
Being nice in the apocalypse gets you killed.
And I did not die.
Exactly.
Confirmed.
Eiffel Tower.
I got a twofer, a double kill, on 2 very nice people. But when they died, together, I celebrated my tooth.
Do you know what it's like? You know that phrase, it's either me or you? No, it's me or you. And you.
Yeah.
And you.
It actually finished with the line, I think this is dangerous, and then the little tiny girl of probably 11 went, no,
Clam.
I'm the danger. And that was the final
I saw
line of the
that!
game.
I
That
saw
was
that!
quality.
I was in the office and I had a very discreet, if you are watching from my work, I wasn't watching it in work, but I was watching it in work and I had a little screen open and I heard that line when she's pointing the gun. And I was sat there and I was pretending to work and I heard it and I looked over, like a glance, and I went, oh, brava.
Brava. I turned that 11-year-old girl into quite literally so evil, my dad moved.
Cold-blooded.
Cold-blooded. I kept singing it wrong, didn't I? Cold-hearted.
You kept saying, yeah, cold-hearted. I sat there at work, it's cold-blooded!
It's amazing how people come in and be like, I can't watch you play it like this. I was like, come on. It's a bit of a giggle. But I was evil. Psychologically. Every time any opportunity came up to really hurt somebody,
You did.
I took it.
Good man.
I
Good
seized
man.
it by
That's
the
how you play a
testicles.
game. That's how you play a game.
We played Outlast. Game not for you, you said.
No, it's a scary game. I am a massive pussy at scary games.
Yeah. It does have its moments, but ultimately it does turn into a simple stealth kind of game.
Is it a jump scare?
I would say the first 20 minutes of that game are terrifying.
Right.
Really genuinely creepy and eerie. I finished it in about 4 and a bit hours. But after that 20 minutes, you kind of realise, especially if you're not playing it on like extreme difficulty, you can get a hit once and you can outrun most people and hide again. But the best character in any game is in that, and I would recommend anyone play it to meet Dr. Traeger.
Traeger.
Dr. Traeger, buddy! That's what he says to you when he finds you. He goes, buddy! And he's not your buddy.
He's not your buddy.
He's not your buddy. And we played the Outlast DLC, which is brutal. Unfortunately, it got a little bit
It's
spoiled.
called War.
The Whistleblower is the DLC.
Oh, the whistleblower. It got a little bit spoiled.
It did get spoiled. There's a the funny thing about Outlast that I found out, because again, it was in my library forever and I never got to play it. The DLC wasn't, interestingly, so thank you to BitMe, because I spewed it up saying, we're going to play the Outlast DLC. And I went, I don't own it. So BitMe was on the case and sent it to me immediately.
Bit Me sent me Killing Floor. I'm sure
He's
it
a
was
good
Bit
man.
Me.
He's a good man.
Well done, Bit Me.
But the funny thing about it is the DLC is about 2 hours, so
Right.
but is considerably more brutal than the actual main game.
Really?
Yes, it is. There is a gentleman in that who wishes to make you his wife.
Rape.
No.
I
Way
don't-
worse than rape.
I did see a guy who's saying that he loved a dead guy when his head was in a microwave and then he ate him.
Yeah, that's Frank. That's
all
Frank.
got so
Oh,
normal,
because you
mate.
find the files and they give names out. So that guy, the cannibal, is called Frank. So he would say, Frankie, please. Because he chased you throughout the game. Chris. Big Chris is a bit of a juggernaut.
Who was the chap who had an itch and said that your skin was
He
like
didn't have a
silk?
name, but that was in all honesty, that was the creepiest part of the Outlast games, was the guy who just literally wasn't going to harm you, but he followed you around going, I've got an itch. And he
Your
followed you from
skin's
room to room.
silky.
The Dick brothers, hail the Dick brothers, twins, pair of brothers, I would imagine, both with dicks a swinging, who very just kindly talk about you and follow you around with dicks a swinging.
Naked?
Yeah, balls naked.
Were they nice guys?
And also, we did get to see some interesting scenes, which was the butt fucking of a decapitated man. That takes place. And when you catch him doing it, he gets up and he goes, "You're sick for watching. You're sick!" While he's butt fucking a decapitated dude on the floor. And he's like, "You're sick," while hiding his dick. You're sick. And another guy jerking off over decapitated bodies. That was a thing that happened. And again, it led to the most evil tweet of the week. I would call it my tweet of the week. Because I didn't intend this to happen, but the games I chose, coincidentally, had a lot of finger removal.
Okay.
So I lost 7 fingers in 2 days.
I know what you're talking about.
So I tweeted a picture.
A very, very nice,
Very lovely,
picture.
lovely picture of myself playing with my son, because it just came out as a really nice picture, like sometimes they do. Especially when you look like me. It's rare, but it happens. And I said, oh, and this is the same guy who was Joffrey Clementine and lost 7 fingers this week. Everybody on Twitter thought my son had lost 7 fingers.
I thought that as well.
Would
thought,
I
what
make it-
the
I'm-
fuck is going on?
Have I got to a place where I'd make a joke about my son losing 7 fingers?
It-
Look how happy he is.
It wasn't a joke though. That's the thing is though, you posted a really nice black and white photo and then something like that. I was just like, what? That's why I tried getting in touch with you. But then, like you said, you sent me something like, it's their own fault for not watching the stream. I was
Yeah,
like,
it's their fault.
Something to do with
If
the
you-
fucking stream. Jesus
If you didn't get it, it was because you didn't watch the stream, and that's your own fault for not being there. And we played the Fear Collection, which is
Thoughts?
Fear 1 and 2, really good.
I
Well,
like
Fear 1
one.
drags a bit in the middle. I get Fear 1 because I think they knew the start and they knew the ending. And in the middle, they were kind of like, well, we'll get through it.
Okay.
So, like, it starts really good, then it goes kind of sloppy and draggy, and then it got really good. Fear 2 was considerably better.
Really?
Yeah, Fear 2 was really good. Fear 3, we lasted about 10 minutes before we said no.
Shit.
And we turned that game off right there.
Really bad.
They decided, for some reason, that in the third game, they changed it from a run and gun, slow-mo, pop people in the head and nail them to the wall kind of shooter, to cover-based Gears of War style shooting, with a lot of hanging around beside a box and popping your gun over and all that kind of stuff. And I was just like, why?
Wow.
It also had, I'll maybe someone could highlight it, but it had the worst AI ever. And to explain it, I was stood upright in the middle of a room full of boxes, just like laughing at the game and talking to the audience, while a guy above me was just shooting a wall. Over and over and over again. He's like, ah! 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 And we were just stood there going, what the fuck is this game? How can you get it so fucking wrong? Why change the whole premise of the game? It was like when Command & Conquer 4 came out and they changed it from building a base to making it a big walking 80-80. Have you never played Command & Conquer 4?
No.
Well, they decided in Command & Conquer 4 that base building was obviously a really bad part of the game.
It's what the game's based on.
It's been a really terrible part of the game, so we'll change that to a big walking 80-80 mech that slowly lumbers around the map, and you can build stuff when it deploys, then you pick it up again and walk around again. That's what Command & Conquer 4 is. You wouldn't even believe it. It was unbelievably fucking shocking. But that was my week, and we're going to add a stream week in probably every 3 weeks.
Nice.
So there's a 3-week gap.
That sounds good.
Now, coincidentally, my 1 week little break from WoW, which I always recommend everyone does, take a little break from WoW, coincided with the release of the WoW sub drop. Now, that was pure coincidence. I did not plan. It was just a coincidence. So everybody assumed I quit WoW for some reason because I like stopped playing WoW and was playing other games, and then this came out and everyone was like, well, that's what's going on. I was like, no. I had no idea this thing was going to be announced. You know what I mean? This was just complete coincidence, and I'm back on WoW now. I just wanted a 1 week little break to re-energize. But Ermagerd, you didn't know about this until you got here today. So, 3 million.
That's a lot of cheese.
It's a lot of cheddar. It's a lot of cheddar. Let's bring it up on the big screen.
That puts it into perspective, though, that whole...
Is it this one? There we go. Delicious. So, obviously, the bit we're concerned in, can I do science? Wait.
Control plus.
Yep. Controlling plussing. Bump, bump. Oh, too much!
No, it's not.
There we go. That's better. Wow. That's a sharp drop in numbers. That is sharp. But let's put some context to this motherfucker, because the doomsayers at the moment are absolutely dripping in jism.
What's doomsayers?
Doomsayers are the people who can constantly say...
The end is coming!
It was like everything in the world, like Epic Mealtime from the first episode. This is doomed next week. Doomed next week. You know, all these kind of things. This will never last. And when something bad comes out, they go, oh, I've been right all along, and all this kind of stuff. So, I disagree. I was expecting it, and I said this on Twitter, I was expecting it to be way more.
Really?
Yes. Because now this is up until the last quarter, which is interesting because Hearthstone went up 5 million players, which I think is pretty hardcore.
Yeah.
So 30 million card shuffling shufflers.
Hearthstone's legit though.
What?
I've been telling you for the last 10
I'm out of it.
I've been telling you for the last listen. I've been telling you for the last 10 years that WoW's dead.
Yeah, exactly.
There you go.
Exactly. So those guys are having a good time. I was genuinely expecting this to be way more because we're just back at MOP numbers. If you look at it was steep, but if you look, we're actually just back to kind of moppy numbers.
Yeah.
And that's exactly where I expected it to be, if not a little bit lower. And that was my initial reaction to it while everyone was saying the doomsaying and stuff. It's a sharp drop, to be honest, but it's got to be said. The hype train for WoD was enormous, dude.
It was.
Wasn't it? Wasn't it? That was the problem. The hype train was fucking ridiculous for Warlords of Draenor. No one had a bigger boner than me. Maybe you. But that comes natural.
I just walk around with it.
I just walk around with it. So, I am like... We could talk about it a little bit. There's a rather lengthy video coming out on Monday, which I think you'd be mostly interested in, which is going to be the deeper thoughts. But WoD promised a lot. Mm-hmm. Didn't it? So I want to put a question to you guys right here now. What did you expect in WoD that you didn't get? I think is the best question. For me, customizable garrisons. I think we very much expected to be able to put the heads of raid bosses up in there. To do something other than...
preset, location-based.
Decide where your buildings were.
Yeah.
Right? I mean... The potential to do cool stuff in there is endless.
Yeah.
And we didn't get much of anything of that. I think as soon as garrisons were announced, we instantly discussed things like that, right? What would you expect from your garrison?
A lot of shit that was catered around what I wanted it to be.
You wanted it to be yours?
Yes.
This is not how I'd have my garrison. You wanted it to do that. Content. And people say content, and I kind of agree. Content that was useful. In any way, shape, or form.
Yeah, something as simple as, I mean, I can understand why the limit in terms of customization in a garrison purely because of everyone's got one. But the little things...
that limits it? Can I just cast your mind back to Neocrop?
Yes, you can.
Them apartments were more customizable than anything I've seen in a long time.
That's a good point. Actually, that's a good point.
There's no reason those garrisons could not be fully customizable.
Now that you just remember, yeah, I totally
Because we played a game where you could literally design an entire... No, I tell you wrong.
Dragon thing.
Multiple apartments.
And a multi-story clan apartment with as much content as you want to
everything from the furniture to trophies to lights.
And it wasn't
to drapes.
A locally stored sort of area. It was like anyone can walk into your apartment.
It was spaced like a garrison.
Yeah.
It was yours, and you could bring people to it, and you could do all that kind of stuff. It absolutely needed more than what it was, and I think this is the general thing with WoD. Because let's be clear here, I'm having a really good time in WoD. When I'm raiding, I'm having a great time. As soon as I stop raiding, there's nothing for me to do. And that's a fact. There's just nothing for me to do. And most people are in that boat because it doesn't take long to out-gear, essentially, everything. And every reward, essentially, promotes gear.
Yeah.
But it's all low-level gear. So everything you can do outside of raiding or PvE or PvP is do something that gains you gear, like Apex's Dailies or all that kind of stuff. I never did Star Wars Galaxies. You did. Did you customize anything in that? I think you could build towns in that.
Yeah,
if I'm not
mate,
mistaken.
it was insane. It was very, very good. A lot more time.
Did you get a place on the map?
It was open. It was open. Like you could put like flora and fauna farms down, and I'm talking about original Galaxies.
But in the world, let me try and give an example. Could you go to the middle of Nagrand and start building a town?
There were certain areas where you couldn't, but theoretically, yes, you could. It wouldn't be like a full sort of army base type thing. It would be your essentials. You know, like if you're like a rustling in the bush and stuff like that. It'll have like collectors. It'll have flora and fauna collectors, huts and stuff like that. But that was original Galaxies, not the rehash, not the shortcut
not
rehash.
the ad thing in there. Yeah, lag in the world was a pain in the ass in Star Wars. Did you have that?
Not lag. I got slowed down purely because my computer that I played it on at the time. When you walk into like Mos Eisley in Star Wars, the original Galaxies. I know I keep saying that. I do apologise, but I just need to make sure that you know it was the original. The remake of Galaxies was not the same game. But anyway, you walk into Mos Eisley, like on my. It was that Dell. Do you remember that Dell PC?
I do remember your Dell.
Yeah?
Pre-built Dell system.
Exactly. But that computer, like for Neocron and stuff like that, it was rapid.
Yeah.
Rapid. Star Wars Galaxy was out, I don't know, around about the same time, maybe even a bit earlier than Neocron, but you go into Mos Eisley and you get 1 frame per 5 seconds.
Okay, so but that was PC related, you think, mainly?
Yes, I don't remember no lag, but I don't think that.
Well, I think that's the problem with the open world environment. But as we said, to quote a comparison in Neocron, which I don't even want to know, 1995, 93.
Neocron.
Yeah.
No. Neocron was like, because I was working. You're talking like 2000.
2000.
That's when we was playing it in ish. That when we left secondary school, you had your apartment.
Okay. I think no, because we were playing it at your house. But anyway, that was phased similar to the garrisons in WoW and completely customizable, no lot slowdown or anything like that. And you could have as many as you want. You could have in sort of comparative terms, you could have 5 or 6 garrisons. But the point is that there was so much extra to be done there, and it never took place. It was a great idea, but what did we build on it? And now we know with 6.2 that's coming is that we're not getting level 4 buildings. That's not happening. We're in fact getting a new garrison, essentially, which is going to have a whole new follower system. So your one now is done, and they're giving you another one on top of it.
What, in this same expansion?
Yes, in 6.2 you will get a naval dock, which has its own separate mission system.
Why are they just not connecting it? Why didn't they design the map in terms of the area could be expandable to a naval dock?
The naval dock is actually shared. It's next to, it's where you land. You know, when you crash, it's where you land. That's actually been rebuilt. And it's got its own, you get boats this time, you build boats and you upgrade them, and you need followers for the boats. So it's a whole new thing that's been tacked on top of that.
Do you know what it sounds like? It sounds like massive amounts of emphasis into something that you would play on a mobile device.
It seems to me like something that has been in the works for a long time, and I genuinely think if garrisons, because not a lot of people like their garrison now, in fact feel as a huge burden. I mean, I made the video on this probably very early on in WoD, I would say. Almost a few weeks after WoD started. Garrison is a prison, that was the video I made on it. I'm not sure when that was. And I think that if this content hadn't been in creation for a very long time, we probably wouldn't be getting it, but the fact that it was already built. Because it seems very strange to me that in a time when people are saying, I'm sick to death of my fucking garrison, that you would then stick another garrison top on top of it.
Yeah.
With a whole separate mission thing that you have to run between and all this kind of stuff. But content in general. So our garrisons were a big hype. They were a huge draw. And we never really saw the payoff. It ruined professions.
Yeah, it did.
It ruined professions because you were really limited on... If you were interested... The thing is, it took a lot of the personal niche interests away. If you were really interested in playing the auction house and doing some sort of rare recipes, that didn't exist. That was gone from the game. If you were interested in professions in any way and farming mats, that was your game, which a lot of people, it was that game, that was taken away from you because your production was limited and everybody could do it on an alt without much effort. The follower system was very strange as well, I think. The whole follower thing was super bizarre. I think if they could have done something really cool with trading followers, but followers ultimately ended up in the mobile game version of things, and that's not what we hoped for.
That's what I'm saying, though. Like, it was in the early days of mobile, with smartphones. Sorry, but there was games where there was usually like gangster games or something where you'd have followers on that. You'd send them on a mission that'd take like 4 hours, and you put your phone away, and then you just carry on doing what you were doing. Check it every couple of hours, see what's going on. Send them out on other missions or on a fight or something. Put your phone away. That's old as shit and dated, but it seems like they're just throwing more emphasis into that sort of.
I understand they're trying
play.
to appeal to casual people. What they've certainly done in WoD, I think we can all agree, as I'm enjoying WoD,
Yeah.
is that the casual side of it doesn't appeal to the casuals.
No.
And that's a big problem.
The casual side of it just seems that people.
It's too casual for casuals.
That's what. No, the casual side of it is casual, but because they're trying to cater more for it, and it's just not as good. The casual people are playing something else, which is worth their time to them more than while trying to be casual, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think they thought they were giving casuals what they wanted, and in turn didn't. LFR was nerfed.
Yeah.
I saw for the first time ever somebody claiming, well, back in the day, LFR was quite a challenge. Somebody said that. I laughed, but then I thought, actually, compared to what we're doing now, LFR was actually more difficult than this. It was, because the first time I stepped into LFR, I made a video on it. I was like, who is this content for? And I think that's an important question. It's like, who are you designing this for? Because these bosses don't do anything at all. And that's a big problem. So even the casual players who maybe got... And we talked about this heavily in WoP, is there was a lot of casual players who saw LFR as raiding and were quite happy with that. They felt that they were doing well. They felt they were doing decent content. There is no way you can have that illusion in WoD. It's so obviously something to get legendary rings.
Yeah.
And we saw that in the post a couple of months back, where we saw that even though you need to step into a raid to get your legendary ring, which you would assume everybody wanted, in fact, a significant amount of people aren't bothering with that either. Which was the crazy thing at the time. Do you remember we showed them stats of people who've completed certain amounts of raids? And there was a huge amount of people who aren't bothering with legendary rings either. Like, you would expect even the casuals to be dropping into LFR every now and again just to get a legendary ring. They don't give a fuck. They don't want to go in there. They don't have any intention of being in there whatsoever, and they don't want to give up their time to do so. And that's a really scary thought. It's a really scary thought that even an orange ring isn't temptation enough to make you go into that content anymore.
But that just shows how far a legendary has fallen in quality now.
Well, we were aware of that, but also how the LFR content, which a significant amount of people do, whether you agree with that or not, or whether you want to be elitist about it, a huge amount of people were in that content, and now so bored with it because it's so little of a challenge, perhaps, I'm guessing, but so little of a challenge, that it just feels like I'm literally going to stand in this room. I'm paying monthly to stand in this room where I can do whatever I want, and it doesn't matter, and I get what I want, and then I log out again. And that's not playing the game.
Or I could just save £10 a month and go and play Farmville on Facebook for the same.
Or you could not spend £10 a month and play some other game, and where you'll do significantly more than it doesn't matter if I'm here or not. And if you're feeling that in LFR, and realising that as a guy who thinks LFR was raiding back in Mists of Pandaria, then you've got a big issue, right? I mean, that's a big thing. Now, WoD got a lot of things right, though. The levelling system is the best I've ever seen.
It was good. I like the levelling
The
system.
best ever in World of Warcraft was the levelling scene, the levelling path in Walls of Draenor. It was fantastic. The cutscenes at the end of it, all the zones having some optional objectives, going to do all this extra stuff that gave you bonus XP, interesting quests, which never existed at the end game. There is not a single interesting quest that goes on at all. As soon as you hit level cap and you get, say, 640 item level, which you can drool to, there is no content for you there. You have Apexis dailies, which are... I mean, what is that?
I don't know.
How did that get approved? I'm genuinely being serious now. How does one approve a daily quest that involves filling the bar by killing mobs? That seems like something so basic that it should never have even been entertained. You would expect someone to go, well, what are we going to do with this idea? Okay, they have to fill the bar, but what are they going to do with it? But that didn't take place at all. It's just fill the bar. And that's continuing on into Nan Jungle in the 6.2, is the they have a new table there, which is Apex's dailies. And it's like...
I don't get it.
I'm really confused as to this. And I kind of see why, we had this thought, is maybe they're just trying to get rid of WoD as much as possible. They're not going to make new 5-mans, and they basically said there's no point in making new 5-mans. So what they've introduced is the Time Walker Dungeons. Have you seen this?
Before you tell me what it is, am I to assume that you are now just going to go to old dungeons which are catering for your level?
What they do is it's a holiday weekend, so it's not permanently in the game. Like they have the PvP weekends. So what they've introduced is a system of sending you to older dungeons, and you scale down is what happens.
Right.
So they've not done anything with the dungeons at all. As soon as you go in, you get scaled down. So we did the Burning Crusade ones. Now, the question I have to ask is if this is trying to claw back some people and say, look, we're going to give you up-to-date Shattered Halls Heroic and things like that. It's the heroic level of the dungeons. I would expect this was trying to retain some players, because the big question is, who is this content for? And some people blitzed me about my opinions on it. It's like, I don't give a shit, because this content is not new for me. It's new for a lot of people. It is. If you never started playing in TBC, which is a long time ago now, then doing that content at a relevant-ish level is new content. It is for that.
I get that, but you've got to consider the fact that a lot of new players that weren't around in TBC will have gone through them instances anyway.
But never at that heroic level. I mean, I think I think we're to blame for this, including myself, is saying things like Shattered Halls Heroic was amazing, Alcatraz, Shadow Labs, all these dungeons were fucking amazing. But you're not
to blame for that. Who are to blame? People that are to blame are the people that listen to people who say that and think, oh, so that must mean you want to do it again. No! We want you to take the good parts out of that and create new content by looking back and thinking, that's what we got right, okay? Don't do it again. Do something that was good about that.
I think the other way they could look at it is, that sounds awesome, I want to do that.
Yes.
Which is what they're saying. So and then they said, look, you know what? We're not going to make new 5-mans. And they said why. Look, we make new 5-mans. What happens is it renders all the other ones out of date because they have to drop better gear. True. And a lot of people will do them and be done with them very quickly. Which is true. But I don't give a shit. That was my point of the video. I don't give a shit. I want new stuff. I always want new stuff. We're paying monthly. I do want new stuff.
I think we can pair this in with the release of the new armor sets and say that basically they've just shit-canned all the design people.
I don't think that. I think they're working on the next expansion. I think that's... They told us that what... They told us, and they tell us regularly, WoW is the biggest team it's ever been. It has never been bigger than it is now. Where is the content that these guys are making?
But here's another thing, is the fact that, okay, then maybe they are pre-prepping for the next expansion, but how much of a dick move is it to not focus on your existing content? Like,
I agree. That's what my point. I don't care that you think it's useless, Blizz. I really don't give a shit. Why? Because you're releasing mythic dungeons, which all you've done is turn the health and damage up. And it's the same dungeons I've been doing since the start of WoD. I could not give less of a shit about that. At all. You telling me I'm going to go to Skyreach again, slightly harder. I never found that dungeon hard in the first place. No. And I've already done it 20, 30 times. I could not give less of a shit about mythic dungeons because you're just saying, oh, but it drops better gear. Well, on my main character that I care about, it doesn't matter because you only have to do a really basic level of raiding to outgear them instantaneously. That's when the new Hellfire Citadel comes out. So you can only say, based on the fact that they keep telling us that WoW is the biggest team it's ever been, that they have to be working on next expansion. And to put that in relative terms, if that team was way smaller in Wrath of the Lich King, we got a brand new 5-man with Trial of the Crusader. We got a huge new daily area, which was the Colosseum, which had a huge number of quests, including an extra zone which opened at the top of Icecrown. We got new normal, new heroic. We got a brand new raid with that. Ulduar was enormous. ICC followed that not long after and had 3 new 5-mans that came with it, as well as a brand new raid. And that team was way smaller.
Well, that team was way smaller. The subs were never higher, and it was the most content.
Yeah, we're never higher. So now you're telling us the team is bigger than ever.
And you're getting
And I can't disagree with the people who are pissed off because we're seeing way less. Way less.
Yeah.
How is this possible? What are you doing? How can this be a thing? You can't tell us we've got the biggest... So many people are working on WoW stuff right now. And we're getting Tanan Jungle, which was supposed to be in at launch and was delayed. So don't tell me that zone didn't fucking exist in the first place, because it did. There's no new 5-man's coming with that. We are getting a new raid. I don't want to get off topic with that, but we are getting a brand new raid, which looks very, very cool. No doubt about it. Looks awesome. But other than that, not so much. Not so much. And it's totally understandable why the people who aren't die-hard raiders ready to jump through the door and move on. There are still people, we had a drama story yesterday, where his guild's still doing high mall normal. And they're perfectly happy doing it. And we're only talking about the 3rd raid tier. So, I mean, you talk about TBC for 5 seconds, and you talk about Gruul, Magtheridon, SSC, Tempest Keep, Hyjal, Black Temple, Sunwell. Now cut them fingers off, baby. And my dad fucking moved. Do you know what I mean? 7 raid dungeons we had. 7 raid dungeons, as well as a brand new 5-man that came. This is the Burning Crusade. The Burning Crusade when the team would have been well smaller. Way smaller. We got brand new 5-man with Sunwell. Black Temple had an immense attunement storyline. We had Karazhan, for fuck's sake. So make that 8, actually. We had Karazhan as well. We had Zul'Gurub, Zulaman. All this new content came out in the Burning Crusade, and you had a way smaller team. Why are the fucking results, man? Where are we seeing this stuff?
Lies.
And people are dropping shit, like, left and right. And can I blame them for that? Absolutely fucking not.
Thanks, mate. I thought you held it against me, but...
No, I mean, I'm personally having a good time, alright? But I can get into the mindset. So if everybody thinking, oh, I'm hating on WoW, I'm not. I'm just saying it is absolutely logical that people are like, there's no point in me playing. And... Fucking hell, he's ugly.
I know, right?
Every time I look at him, I get distracted.
Mate, I'm sorry I brought him.
Could put a screen up.
We could put props on him.
On top of that,
Go.
on top of that, we have to put a lot of blame in the garrison item mission rewards. As big as the joke is that you get, let me put it in context, because a lot of people like them, and I get it, I like them too. But I raid every week. But it is not, it's actually a legitimate system right now. A legitimate system right now. To raid for 3 weeks or less, and most of your gear you will need to get a decently geared character will arrive in the post after that point. At its highest possible level. If you can get a boost, which a lot of people are doing, this is happening a lot. When new content goes out, people are getting a boost through Heroic or Mythic for a couple of weeks, and then the garrison missions will start delivering you gear to them. You never have to raid again. All the way up until the next raid tier. You don't have to do
You got your best in slot trinket in the mail, didn't you?
I've had, as many of you out there will have, I've had trinkets from bosses I've not killed arrived to me in the mail. So ultimately that boss was useless to me then, because the item I would want from it, other than actually killing it, which we eventually did, was already in my bag. So killing it and rolling or anything was a waste of time. And so, that was just taken away from me. But even regardless of what you get, the fact that it does arrive, and it arrives consistently, it just arrives. It just comes to you. I'm gearing all my alts just by mission caches that just turn the fuck up and arrive in the post. And then I see a lot of people going, why should I raid? Why should I do that? And we're saying, because killing it is really cool, and that's why my guild still exists. But many guilds fell apart because they were like, I'm really interested in gear, which is not my take on it. I don't care. But I'm in the minority there for people who care about gear. And if you really care about gear, that's not an incentive anymore, unless you really want tier sets, because you don't get... I don't think you get tier sets or weapons. But I think a lot of people won't give a shit, considering you can get everything else and not raid. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So you don't have to do that anymore. And I could totally get if people are just concerned with item level, to maybe do a pug whenever the fuck they feel like. We'll be more than happy to be like, yeah, I just don't give a shit. I'll just let my garrison sort it out, and I can go play other alts, I can play other games, I can check in, I can get more stuff, and then it's done. So there's a lot of ways we were let down. We were let down in WoW. A lot of wasted potential there, and it's reflecting the numbers. Although I expected it to be more than this. Judging by the state of the community, the guild collapse that happened before the 5 item level buff, which was guilds dropping left and right, not in the top. I mean, we saw some of the top guilds crumble, but way down the line, that filtered out massively. So I got some ideas. I got the best in slot trinket for combat, best in slot one for tub, and the black hand trinket and heroic before I killed any of the bosses. That all came in there. And I think another point here is I spoke about this, and it's really a high level thing, but losing the high level players is also a bit of a bummer. Is that a lot of the things you strive for, I can talk from a raid experience, a lot of things you strive for or used to strive for, like DPS rankings and stuff, are absolutely pointless now.
Because of the randomization of loot.
Well, you've got so many levels of randomization. Let's do a list. You've got the randomization of gear. So the idea of ranking is comparing yourself, so me and you. Who is better, me or you? That's all the ranking's for, right?
Me.
So there you go, easy. So you do well on a boss and you try really hard because you're incentivized to see whether or not you were the best.
Yes.
Okay, so Warforged and gemmed gear makes that instantly irrelevant because one, I'm just hitting harder than you every time I hit. Every time I cast a spell, it does more damage than yours does. So you're fucked.
Yeah.
Or maybe not, because they do this. Then they added in, at the end of MOP, due to the people being able to control their DPS more and players be getting better, we saw outrageous bursts, so RPPM came into the game. Some classes benefit from RPPM trinkets and weapon enchants. A lot don't. A hell of a lot don't. So that adds another layer of randomization on top of it. Then the set bonuses came in, and I'm a bitch about my combat one, but this is widespread. People are asking me why the set bonus is so boring. Blizzard doesn't want you to have control over your DPS that much. They want you to have overall greater DPS, but not to the point where you can abuse the fuck out of it. And that's so you can't do crazy bursts like we've seen in the past. They don't want that to happen again. So you get things like the set bonuses we're getting in Hellfire for the Moonkins is like a fairy dragon. You have no control over it. It could spawn at the worst time possible, but it'll appear and it'll go and do extra damage for you. It's boring as fuck. And there are several other classes that are also getting pets. I can't wait as a melee until there's a fucking bunch of fairy dragons and shit all around me on top of everything else. Thanks very much for that, Blizz. But again, that's something you don't control. So another level of randomness is on top of it. Did it proc at the right time or not? Did it work? Did you proc as the phase changed and it did no damage, or however it's going to work? But again, this is something that's completely out of your control. Randomness again. And all these things add up very quickly to... As a rogue, I can tell you now, and it's true, is at the high level rogues, I've had 99th percentiles, which puts you like right at the very cream, and 50th. And that's because on some fights I do one different mechanic, and that means that I'll never rank on that boss. So I don't care about that particularly. But I know on certain bosses, it's entirely down to what my gear does, and not me. And I can't tell you how much of a I couldn't give a shit that is.
Yeah.
I play the same every single time. But my DPS will be way different each time. Way, way different. And it's nothing that I have control over. So, and that's happening amongst lots and lots of classes. It's like, Now, somebody's saying, yeah, I knew this was coming. But mine makes me more bursty. You will be balanced around it. If you remember, if you can cast your mind back, especially if you were watching, to the WoD Alpha and Beta videos I did, where I got the set bonuses, I did the quick looks at the various classes. One of the big things I pointed out to you guys is that you are being balanced around your set bonuses. And some people said I was being stupid. You're not. And that's still happening today. They are balancing you around your set bonuses. Especially if you look at things with... I'm trying to cast my mind back. Fire Mage especially, is they were super weak until they got their 4-piece. And then suddenly they had huge pulls, but you would eventually catch up to them. Priests had similar things where spells seemed weak, but your set bonus was balanced around it in order to bring that up to the front. So if your gives you burst, it's because your normal damage isn't that great. That's what's happening there. And it all kind of evens out. So you're being balanced around that in many ways. You're being balanced around your set bonuses. And it's all just to... Instead of making you overpowered in certain times, it's just to smooth you out. Because Blizzard wants you to have smooth damage and not really controlled damage. And if you're not convinced by that, I submit as evidence the original incarnation of the Legendary Ring that was made into the game and was approved, which goes against everything we know as good DPSs. Because that was around smooth damage and not spiky being able to do real damage. And this is why a lot of players were angry, is because they're like, we already put up with all these levels of RNG, and now you're adding another one on top of it, which is immense. But Blizzard's kind of okay with that, because they don't want you to have real controlled damage. But it's sad, because for me, it took rankings away. Rankings that I couldn't give a shit. And does it demotivate me sometimes in raids to really, master a certain timing to the pull? Yeah, because my procs or my gear will do way, way more than I could possibly ever do in that scenario. And that's kind of sad.
The thing is, though, it's not just personal, growth anymore, though, is it? It's totally not personal growth anymore. It's not trying... even if you're inclined to get those numbers, if you're inclined to just strive for that ranking, it's not as clear cut as be the best player anymore.
No, it's not. I mean, when I went into... Because there are certain factors that need to take place, and I told this... you might think I'm being a queen douche about this, but the truth of the matter is, I've told a story time about gaining that rank first, and the effort that went into that, and standing in front of that boss. It's a farm boss, and farming is a part of the game, and thinking... certain things in my head. One, all the other guys who have done this, who play my class and spec, all have about the same gear, so we're even keel on that. And it comes down to, we all have about the same amount of procs, and we can control most of them, unused trinkets and blah blah blah, which really, they rarely exist now, but there are some. And knowing that the final result will be how I played my character. And that's what will decide whether I'm first or not, is how I played it. And... I don't feel that anymore because there is so much variation in what goes into what my eventual damage output will be that is completely out of my control. That why should I feel compelled to push hard on that? And right now I've switched over from caring about that stuff to caring about mechanics, and I will be the first to sacrifice my DPS to go and do something. To go and do something else. Wait, go on a boat. Go and be the bomb clicker on fucking Blast Furnace or whatever it is. I'll gladly do that. Why? Because my DPS at the end of this fight doesn't fucking matter. It doesn't matter. It's out of my control. If the boss dies, we win. If it doesn't, it doesn't. It's as simple as that. What I can't do is stand in front of a boss and say, I'm going to fuck you up. Because as soon as it starts, it could all go wrong very quickly. So for a lot of raiders, that's why they've left as well. And I know that's just a fact, guys. I speak to these guys, and I've told the members of my guild this regularly. A lot of the guys who are on my Skype are disappearing daily, and it's for reasons like this. It's like I have no control over this. I'm basically at the mercy of my gear, which nobody wants to be. There's no content, blah, 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 blah.
Should we just bite the bullet and go back to Wildstar?
Well, no, because I still enjoy WoD. As much as I'm pointing out I play devil's advocate in a way, so not a lot of people won't hear that.
Is that an MMO?
Yeah, I know that most people will be like, oh my god, I appreciate WoW. I don't. I've just changed my focus. I've changed my focus entirely. I've changed more to mechanics type stuff instead of caring about things I used to care about and take joy out of. But I've changed my focus on that, which I'm fine with. You're not rewarded for playing right then. Up to a very limited point. It used to be, I would say, in the top 5%. That was a real cut and thrust, and maybe some things played into that. Now I'd say it's the top 80%, and it really is that varied, especially with rogues, is the top 80% could shift based on factors that have nothing to do with you. Just play the devil. I know. I know. No one, and there'll be so many people who watch this and be like, oh my god, he hates WoW. I don't. I still get great joy out of the game. But I absolutely understand why people have left so dramatically. And I think that's the point we need to take away from this. It's not the numbers drop. I thought it would be more. We're back to Mr. Pandaria numbers. That's fine. But it's the steepness of that drop. It was the almost immediate abandoned ship. This is not for me. And that's what we need to take away from this. But it was as steep as the hype train that brought them there. In context, it was the hype train that brought them there, didn't get what they wanted and quit pretty quickly.
Yeah.
That's what's happened. They arrived along a hype train, which I helped fuel. We all helped fuel because it was amazing. Everything WoD promised was fantastic, getting back to its roots and all that kind of stuff. And what we got was a lot of kind of good ideas that didn't really flesh out, and people clapped onto that pretty quickly. So that's my thoughts there for those of you who've been constantly talking at me about it all the day.
To change the subject...
Hit me! Rhythm stick!
Is there any sort of word of when Overwatch Alpha's coming out yet? Because wasn't it supposed to be March?
I don't know. I mean, I'm sure we'll get keys when it's available.
I'm gonna speak to our person because I want to play it now.
I think you'll be fine. I mean, we're on the list, so...
Are we?
We are.
Are we, though?
We are on the
Private
list.
answer the captain's question!
We are on the list. We're on the list to get stuff. Right! So now we've covered that, should we have some fun? Should we have some drama fun? I think we should.
Do you want to go straight into it?
No.
Gotta take 5.
We'll take 5, and then we'll talk incest.
Get it back up. Really?
Yeah, we're going incestuous.
Fuck the 5.
Back in 5.
Let's go in.
Nobble's in the story, for fucking sure.
He's a pervert anyway.
It's an incest story. Nobble's in.